I'm John Quinn, and this is Law Disrupted. And this is another of our conversations with associates at our firm, where we're exploring what life is like at a large law firm and how associates' careers develop and their skills as lawyers grow during the time they spend at a law firm. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Mari Henderson, who is an 8th-year associate at our firm. Mari, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know you took a couple years off at one point to work with the district attorney's office, I think?
Yes, I was a junior associate with this firm for from 2015 to 2017, and then I left to be a prosecutor for 3 years, and then I came back at the height of COVID, and I've been here ever since.
And that must have been a very different experience working in the DA's office.
It was a very different experience, but there are a lot of similarities. I was just saying I was in trial last week, and I had the opportunity to work with Bill Price and Crystal Nix-Hines. And one thing I loved about being a DA is like you're in the trenches. You're together, you're throwing ideas at each other, what'll work, what won't work. And when you're on a trial team and you're in the war room, it's the exact same thing.
A lot of similarities then.
Yes.
As you reflect on your 8 years as a lawyer, a couple of years taken off in the DA's office, starting with our firm right out of law school. I mean, how do you reflect on, what observations do you have kind of about the arc of your career and your learning to be a trial lawyer?
Well, all I wanted was to be a trial lawyer, and so that is why I chose Quinn Emanuel as the firm I wanted to go to when I graduated. And right off the bat, I had great experience. I worked on the PG&E fire cases, and I also had the opportunity to work on a case defending USC against the football coach Steve Sarkisian, who had sued, and I know you were working on that case as well.
Together.
Yes, so I had the wonderful opportunity to work with you and Mike Williams and the rest of the team on that matter. So I had really great experience early on, and it was interesting because I had applied to be a DA knowing that so many of the wonderful trial attorneys at our firm, Diane Doolittle, Chris Tabak, Steve Madison, so many have experience as prosecutors. So I had applied to the DA's office, but wasn't sure when I would be able to get in because of budget freezes and hiring freezes. And I got a call from Jackie Lacey, the DA, the day I was in Sacramento about to start a 12-week trial for PG&E, and I thought, how could I possibly leave? This is going to be one of the best experiences of my career. I am a second-year associate. I'm working on opening with Bob Feldman. I'm prepping the key witnesses, and I told her I'd have to call her back, and then the very next day the case settled. So I thought, this must be a sign. I'm gonna go to the DA's office and then come right back.
So coming out of law school, you knew you wanted to be a trial lawyer?
Absolutely.
As you reflect on your state of mind when you first joined our firm, did you have some apprehension about what it meant to be an associate at a large law firm? What it meant to be a trial lawyer? How you would get from where you were just starting out to getting to the point you are now where you're an experienced trial lawyer? What was your state of mind?
Well, my parents are trial attorneys. They're plaintiffs' med mal attorneys, but they're a solo firm, and so it's a very different experience, and they know nothing about big law. So I was apprehensive in the sense that I didn't know really what to expect, but I had a wonderful opportunity first time around to work on really big cases, which is what I wanted. I was a reporter out of college, and I love news and like the big headline grabbing stories, and that was kind of where I wanted my career to go, and so I had the great opportunity to work on those headline grabbing cases here early on.
How did you learn? I mean, what was the process like? I know for any new job, and certainly for a profession, there's got to be you learn things bit by bit, incrementally, and grow in confidence, hopefully. What was that process like for you?
Well, I think one of the things I love most about this firm is the mock trials we do, because that is really the opportunity for me to learn and to test things out and to help refine the case themes and the issues. And so I learned a lot that first 2 years we did mock trials for the PG&E case first before any deposition had been taped. And so our plan...
That's kind of unusual. Did mock trials before any depositions were what was the thinking on that?
So the thinking was we wanted to help show the client and then also refine for us like what the issues were going to be as we were leading into potential trial and also all of these big, large group settlements. And so the first mock trial, we actually hired actors, like no joke, to play the CAL FIRE chief, to play like the PG&E corporate representative, to play the plaintiffs. We hired actors, we created scripts for them of what we thought that they were going to testify to, what we knew from the investigative reports and the documents that had been filed as of that time. And then after all the depositions, we did a second mock trial on the eve of trial, and that is always really a great learning experience because you're putting together, you basically come out with a full opening and closing deck, before trial has started, because you have to go through that process in the mock.
Well, were there any frustrations or disappointments along the way? There must have been some things that didn't go, from your standpoint, ideally or optimally.
I think early on, maybe my only frustration would have been you're eager and you want to be able to do things yourself or do more of them. But I got the opportunity in that case to second chair the key expert depositions. And so I can't complain about the experience that I had there. I really learned a lot. But I know I wanted to be able to kind of get in the courtroom myself and do it myself, which is why I then left for the DA's office, and I actually I wanted to get to a certain number in my head before I came back to Quinn. In my head I was like, let me get to 25. Let me get to 25 trials. So I was about to start my 20th trial on Friday, March 13th, 2020. There was a jury coming in that day for a burglary trial, and the world stopped, and I decided, what I liked most about that job which is what I like most here, is doing trials, and what I liked least was running calendar. And all I was doing was running calendar and continuing cases month after month. And so I thought it's time to come back.
And how has the experience been since you came back?
The experience has been phenomenal because I've been able to get in the courtroom. I've had 2 back-to-back trials just in the last 2 months. I was on one of the Tesla trials, and I had the opportunity to take our 2 defense witnesses at trial in federal court in San Francisco. I just came back last week from a very unique trial where we represent the University of Pennsylvania in proceedings where we are seeking major sanctions against a law school professor for her racist and discriminatory conduct towards her students. And again, I had the opportunity to take 3 of our witnesses who were student alums at the University of Pennsylvania. So it's been great.
Well, it sounds like professionally, it's been a really good experience for you. How about on a personal level? Has there been a lot of stress, sleepless nights, difficult managing other things you have going on in your life? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So on a personal level, last year was difficult to juggle. I came back in January from maternity leave, so I had a 5-month-old.
Is that your first child?
My first child. He is now
Wonderful.
21 months. So I came back in January from maternity leave, and everyone was very supportive, and it was nice because I was working on one of my other favorite cases. We represented he is essentially the Jeff Bezos of China. He runs the equivalent of Amazon in China, and we were representing him in a case that almost went to trial last year. So it was as if I picked up right where I left off in that case, even though I had taken 5 months off. I jumped right back to doing depots, preparing our experts, preparing the mock trials, preparing our defendant for his deposition, and then trial testimony. And when I came back from maternity leave, luckily I'm fine now, but I was diagnosed with early stage oral cancer last year.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah, and everyone at the firm was incredibly supportive because I had to take more time off beyond maternity leave because I had to have surgery to remove the tumor from my tongue. So I took about a month off last summer to recover from that, and I was very concerned because as a former reporter and as a litigator and a trial attorney, being able to speak is
pretty important.
My number 1 goal, I would say.
Fortunately, obviously, it hasn't handicapped you at all.
Yes, I'm very lucky to the team of doctors I had at UCLA that my speech has not been impaired. So I had to take time off. It's like I came back from maternity leave, and then I had to go right back out again for medical leave, and everyone could not have been more supportive. I mean, Diane Doolittle, she was sending me baby gifts. Everyone from Chris Tabak, Bruce Van Dalsum, Diane, that was the main case I was on at the time, and they gave me the space and the time to be able to heal, and worked with me because we were preparing for a 6-week trial in Minnesota right as I was coming back, and worked with me in my schedule to be able to come out for the trial, but not for the entire time. So everyone has been incredibly supportive. But I think after last year, it's like I can do anything now.
Right. Superwoman.
Yeah.
What advice or thoughts would you have to share with a young law student who's thinking about a career at a large law firm, based on your experience? Are there some observations that you would make about the pluses and minuses, or how to succeed in that environment?
I would say in terms of how to succeed, you should reach out, like, don't be shy reaching out to partners and trying to get on cases and advocate for yourself. That's how I got on the USC case. Is I walked down the hall and I knocked on Mike Williams' door and I said, I'd love the opportunity to work with you. And he put me on that case, and it was a wonderful experience for me. Advocate for yourself and say, I would love the opportunity to take a deposition, and who knows, there might be a time where you can first chair a deposition of, maybe not the key witness, but another supporting witness. And so just advocate for yourself would be my, the worst that can happen is they say no, but they know that because you've asked and because you've tried, they keep that in the back of their mind.
I think that's great advice. I think sometimes young lawyers don't put themselves out enough and raise their hand and say, I'd like to do that.
Yeah,
and I think that's great advice.
And I get emails a lot because I've helped grow our crisis law and strategy practice group, and so I get emails from first years or new attorneys who are starting at the firm, and they say, I've seen your experience, I would love the opportunity to work with you. And even if I don't, have a case or something they can work on right at that time, I always mark the email. And there's in fact an associate who reached out to me and I said, I'll be in the office today, I'd love to say hi. So I'm gonna go meet him after this. And so, introduce yourself, make those introductions, because you never know what it will lead to.
So what does the future look like for you? I mean, ideally, what would you like to do? What are your interests going forward? As an 8th-year associate, there comes a point where you're considered for partnership in the firm. I don't know if that's something you're interested in. Not everybody is. Of course, if you are interested, I guess that can be a little nerve-wracking too, because it's not a decision that's totally under your control. How do you think about those kinds of issues in your future?
Well, it is most definitely something I'm interested in, so it can be nerve-wracking as I prepare to put my best business case forward. And I think one thing I need to shift more towards is business development, which is something else I love at this firm. Doing the marketing assignments, being able to learn how to put together pitches, and I've had the great opportunity to, use my connections and try to utilize them to pitch cases, to bring in cases. So that certainly is a focus of mine this year after I finish up with what will be 4 trials this year, hopefully. In terms of what I see for my futures, I would love the opportunity at some point to join the partnership at this firm, to help the firm grow, and to be at some point among the great ranks of trial attorneys at this firm.
Well, Mari, thank you so much. Thank you for everything that you've done for our clients and for our firm.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Mari Henderson, a senior associate at our law firm, Quinn Emanuel. This is John Quinn, and this is Law Disrupted.